Down in Atlanta where rhythm drums strong, riders unite after a whole year gone. Heritage and history blended so sweet, a family reunion beat by beat.
I feel like that's the thing that allowed people to attach and stay with me. I've been writing for 10 years, and so, you pick up people, you lose people, when they come back, they've stayed with me, some of these, because they feel connected to these characters. They see bits and pieces of themselves, people they know, and they feel good about these stories. So I'd say that's generally how that happened.
And are your characters, where do you get the inspiration from them for?
Life, just life. You'll be in a book, in one way. They say don't piss off a writer because they will take it out on you in a story. But just life. I mean, it's so funny. I have written books just because I heard a song, and that song inspired an entire book. It brought people's lives together through just lyrics, and it just from life. And then of course, I've been married for 30 years. We have a beautiful marriage, we have children, so that we have family. All of these things are layers that come about in the books, and so it's just life in general. And I may wake up in a bad mood one day and think, you know what, I'm gonna write a character who just destroys everybody's happiness because she woke up on the wrong side of the bed. So just life in general.
Yeah, I love that. Everyone has a story because we're all living a unique life.
Agreed.
There you go. So I know we talked about this yesterday. We were talking about traditional publishing, self-publishing. You've kind of gone both routes. I think now you're leaning more into the self-publishing route. And by the way, this talk is sponsored by Amazon KDP, whose booth is right in the front of this auditorium. But tell me, how, I guess you're leaning more into self-publishing. What are the pros there? How has it been working out for you? And what do you use to self-publish?
So I would say it depends on your goals as to which avenue you take, because you can go either route, and I am hybrid, so I'm self-published and traditionally published. And when I say goals, everybody has different goals. For me, self-publishing gives me freedom with my voice, gives me freedom with when and how I publish. I can write a book, get it to editing, finish it, go through my edits, and publish it that next morning if I wake up and feel like it. With traditional publish, it's more of a tedious process. My traditional pubs, I sat on them for a year before I could even promote them. So you create these works, and then you have to go through a different process because it's a different business, it's a different reach, it's a different platform. And so, but again, when I say your goals, with my traditional publish, they have a reach that I don't have. I am a 2-time USA Today bestseller. I can't make those metrics necessarily with independent publishing because I'm not as wide as traditional publish is. So again, it depends on your goals. I lean into the independent publishing again because it gives me more control over my voice, what I want to publish, how I want to publish. I don't have to worry about, an editorial team going, we maybe want to take these 4 chapters out. And I'm like, no, those chapters are so relevant. It's kind of funny coming off of what we just listened to, and they're like, you need to learn how to pivot with your writing. But so that's, for me, independent publishing is just a beautiful thing. It gives you more so the freedom and the control, and then with having Amazon and Kindle, we upload these books, we have complete access to, our IP, to our funds, things of that nature. It's different. You are in complete control of what you do, whereas traditional publish, you're not. So both are great. It just depends on your goals. And if your goals are to be on that broad stage and to shoot for those New York Times and USA Today and things of that nature, then yeah, traditional pub is the avenue that you want to take. But it takes patience, and you may pitch a book and not get heard from, hear a response for 6 months to a year, just on your project. And then if they accept it, you may wait another year before that project reaches the masses. So it depends, again, like I said, on your goals and what you want to do and what your end game is.
Right, and you get to keep more of your dollars.
Exactly.
So when did Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing enter the picture, and what made you say this is the platform for me?
So for me, I started with a boutique publisher who was on Amazon, and I said when things happen when they're supposed to. I could not have survived being an author when they were hustling books out their trunks and, hitting the pavement. Amazon literally has given an opportunity to people to have the reach that they wouldn't have naturally had in years past. So it wasn't necessarily this is the way to go. It was the option that was available at the time. And, unfortunately, those that have come before us didn't have that. So they're looking at us now like, oh, wow, you guys are really doing great things. It's the reach, it's the access, things change. So there was really no other way to go.
So for authors just getting started, I'm sure it can be overwhelming. And I talked to you yesterday about my mom, who's in the audience, who, she's thinking about publishing a book, and she's like, I don't know how to get started. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced early on, and how did you overcome them?
I think so. Everyone has a story in them. We've said that. The biggest challenge is, I always tell people, your first book is easy. You don't have outside noise. You're in this creative space and you have this story to tell, and you're just so excited about it, and you're writing and you're getting it out, and then you put your child out there to the world, and someone says, ooh, your child is ugly. And it hurts. It really hurts. So the first book is easy, and you put it out there to the world, and the outside noise kicks in. So the challenges come, the majority of the challenges. So there are challenges with getting it out there, so I'll circle back to that. But the challenges come when there's outside noise, because people are telling you, oh, you should have written this, or it should have been this way, or I didn't necessarily like that about it. And you have these things in your head when you go back to write the second book. So the first book is easy. The second book, when you have to cipher through, because there is some critique out there that is necessary, and you need to be open to listening, because we're so attached to our projects that we're just like, this is what I want to write, this is what I'm going to say, I don't care who says. But then there are some things that, well, maybe there was a loophole, or maybe I did not totally flesh out this storyline and things of that nature. But then there are just some people who just like, I just didn't like it. Or why would you have written about that? And so the biggest challenge is staying committed to it, and understanding that if this is your heart and soul and this is your purpose, you have to block out the outside noise, and it's not easy. It's not easy to stay committed and dedicated to what you're doing. And also with traditional pub, you have deadlines and things like that. When you're indie, you wake up, I don't want to write today. Oh, I don't feel like writing tomorrow. But then the book never gets out there. So it's the dedication, being dedicated, being committed, putting the time in. But then circling back to the other challenges is, where do I put this book? Who's my audience? Who is going to connect to this project? And those are things that the creatives don't necessarily get. We don't get that until we're in it. And when we're in it, it's too late, because you have this project and it's like spinning wheels. Okay, what now? What now? And you sink sometimes instead of swim, because you didn't understand the business side of it, because we're the creators, we're creating. We don't necessarily have to understand the business side of it, so that's another challenge. With independent publishing, you are all things. It's all on you.
Right, and I think one thing that I've had to internalize is the beginner's luck, and knowing that when you're just starting out, Nobody's looking at you. Nobody cares about what you're doing. When I'm writing, I'm thinking about what's gonna make me laugh, what's gonna make my friends laugh, and that's about it. I'll put it out there. If y'all laugh, that's cool too. But just knowing that that audience isn't there, so there's no pressure.
Yeah.
It's like you can just put this out. Whoever gonna rock with it, gonna rock with it. If not, you keep putting stuff out until you build that muscle of consistency, and then you'll find your audience eventually. So it's like, I actually think it's a very privileged place to be in.
I'm an advocate of write the book and the right audience will find you, but I also counter that with you need to know the audience that you're trying to target. Because you can write a book, okay, so per se if I write, you know, an urban fiction book or an urban romance or a contemporary romance and then I go put it in a horror genre, that's not my audience. I didn't know enough about my target audience or the business side of it to know where to put my book. And again, you're sinking instead of swimming.
Right. What tools, features, or strategies within KDP have helped you and been the most beneficial in growing your authorship and your platform?
Oh gosh. I'd probably say knowing the genres. They're amazing with understanding, again, your target audience and how to present your product to reach those target audiences. And they're helpful, you know, and if you get a KDP rep and you have questions about, I need to know how to get this book seen. They will help you navigate keywords, search words, things of that nature that fit your product because you're selling a product. And again, if you're selling a product to people who it doesn't relate to, it's not going to be successful. So for the most part, it's just understanding their system and how it works. And when you get that rep on your team and use the resources because they're a resource. You have to use you can't get upset about not navigating something properly or understanding how it works and then not being successful with it. So there are resources and they are a resource, but if you don't utilize that. So I'd say for me, basically just understanding how to get my product in the hands of the right people.
Right, and do you automatically get a rep when you sign up?
No, you don't. So I've had them reach out to me because of the traction that I get, and unfortunately I feel like if you reach out to them when it comes to that, I don't necessarily know how it works, but there are KDP people who will help you out with that. But but that is key really to me, to understanding their system and how it works because it's massive, and you're a small fish in a big sea trying to figure out things. And as an independent author also, you don't have the time to waste on things like that. And so if you can have someone save you hours of searching and navigating to something that it's their job and they know, it really helps, it's beneficial.
That's the perfect segue to the next question. Because we are creators. I think many of us in here are creators, creatives, and we don't have time, we don't want to really get into the business side of things. Like that's a whole nother realm. I'm sure many of us have, tried to balance it, but it is a balance trying to create and, look at the business side. What's the money saying? What are my views, engagement, whatever you're measuring saying? How do you manage both the creative and the business side?
Again, I've been doing this for 10 years, so I have a system that works for me now. There's a creative space and then there is a business side. But you have to have both because you have to have a product to put out there, but you have to understand how to sell your product. So you can't have one without the other. But for me personally, the creative aspect takes, it is first for me. And then the business side of it, in my opinion, is just as important. But once you figure out that system, it rarely ever changes. Once you know who you are as a creative and you know your target audience, then there's not much that you have to do with the business side of it as far as that. But then outside of that, there are other things like you have to understand your marketing, you have to understand your brand, you have to have a brand. You can't just literally just go throw a book out there. You have to have a brand that you can attach to the product that will help you sell it. So I think the biggest part of it is just finding the time, and you have to run it like a business. I have been, again, I quit my job when I turned in my first book, so I had to decide how to navigate this like a business, because even though I quit a traditional corporate job, this is now my job. And it just means that the business side of it you have to find time for it, and you have to have a balance for all of it.
And I think that's another pro for self-publishing, because I was speaking to an editor the other day, and she was like, she works at Penguin, and she was saying, these days, if they're looking for authors, they're looking at your social media following, they're looking at your branding, they're trying to see if you have an existing audience, which a lot of people don't have, or at least it'll take time to build that up before you can get that book deal. And not to discourage people, because it's possible, but when you're self-publishing, you can kind of just go and kind of build the plane as you're flying it, even without that audience, or still the audience.
Yeah, because it's expensive. I mean, you think publishing houses are putting, a lot of money behind that product. They're paying for editing, they're paying for the print process of it, they're paying a whole team to go out there and market it. So of course they want people who have a following that says that yes, if we put this money behind your product, it's going to sell, because they want to return. It's a business. Outside, we're creatives, and sometimes we're just like, oh, we just want to write, we have these stories, we want to tell them, but it is a business. And so we have to be understanding of that.
Right. Was there a particular project or moment that you felt like was a turning point in your career, when you felt like, okay, I've made it, I figured it out? When was that point?
For me, no, honestly, because I haven't made it, and I haven't necessarily figured it all out in a sense. And I have a lot of accolades, and I've written over 150 books. And of these, everyone is different, everyone is important to me. There are some projects that I'm more attached to, that I feel like, oh wow, this is great. So my Christmas book, for instance, Christmas Inspired You, it ended up on Oprah's book list. It ended up in New York Times. It ended up on People. Got all of these things. And it was just like, oh wow. Now writing the book, I was like, oh, that was a cute little Christmas book. But it was not that to me. I didn't imagine. So those are things that when they happen, you're sitting back like, oh wow, they really like this book. But for me, it was no different than writing the other books. So I'm attached to some of these books in different ways. Like I have a book, Shadows and Whispers, that's about a bipolar male. And oh, y'all know Elias? And that to me, I think, was a turning point for me in my career, because I wanted to write something with the male character to be the one that had the bipolar. A lot of times it's depression and anxiety and bipolar from the women perspective. But we read these books, these women who read these books, these fictional romances, because we want to fall in love with these male characters. So how do you fall in love with this broken male who has all of these issues and all of these things, and he is seen in society as damaged? And so I challenged myself to write this book, but also write it in a way that someone who is experiencing bipolar or has a loved one who is bipolar felt seen. And so my test reader read the book, and I didn't know this at the time, or she wouldn't have gotten it. And she was like, my son is bipolar. You have given me hope that he can have his happily ever after. And I was just so emotional. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. So I'm a researcher. I call hospitals, I call doctors, I call the police department. I'm like, hey, so if this case is happening, can you, but people love to talk about their jobs. So they will talk to me. So I'm a heavy researcher, and just to know that it landed and I got it right. So that, I would say, is one of the pivotal moments, because it was just, that's one of the stories for me that just, it's just so beautiful, and so many people have given me that feedback, and it was received the way I wanted it to be delivered.
That makes it all worth it, and it just keeps you going. And I'm the same. I love to get into the research.
Yes.
So, yeah. If I read a book, sometimes I'm like, I know about this. I don't think this author.
Yes.
For aspiring authors in the audience, what advice would you offer for building a brand, mastering the KDP platform, and staying consistent with your work?
Consistency is so very important. So I'll start there. You have to, because this is the thing, we're in a microwave industry because of KDP, because anybody can write a book and put it up there. So there are thousands of authors a day that release books. So what makes your book unique, and what makes you unique as an author? So consistency is so important, because, well, if you're doing a one and done, it doesn't really matter, but nobody really wants to do a one and done. They want a career as an author. They want to, continue to create. So consistency is so important, because you need to prove to people that you're here for a reason, and that you're not fly by night, and that when they fall in love with your words, that you're not going to disappear on them. So you have follow-up product, because once they read a book, and how many of you read, and you read that book, and then you're like, oh my God, what else is out there by this person? And you go devour their catalog. So consistency is important for that. But I'm sorry, what was the other part of it?
Consistency, building a brand,
okay.
Advice you would offer there, and using the KDP platform.
And building a brand is so very important too, because again, you are the brand, you're selling a product. Your work is your product, but you are a brand. And so you want to stand out amongst the sea of authors that are out there. And also your brand is very important if your end goal is to be traditionally published, because you can write a great book sometimes, but it's not attached to anything, and you are the thing, and it gets overlooked. And so the world has changed so much. They don't just want the art, they want the artist. And they want to go to your page, and they want to know about you and who, and not to say you have to share your whole world with people, but enough of you that they feel connected, because again, emotions are universal, and if they felt something in your book, they want to feel something with you as well. It's kind of sucky, it's a catch-22, but your brand is very important. So you want to build a brand that is reflective of your product, that is professional, and that does not change, because when people see my logo, they don't even have to read the words in my logo. It's a visual. They're like, oh, that's Casey Mills. They know my colors, certain things about that, the marketing of it. So be consistent with your brand and create something that is timeless, and create something that is not boxed into one specific thing. Because, yeah, you want to make sure that your brand translates across every avenue and arena, because I started as an author, but I'm moving into script writing and TV and film. If I just have books and I'm labeled as just books, and my branding and my logo is just that, then I have to create something completely different when I want to move in those other arenas.
Right, so important. Well, thank you for that advice. I'm just curious, you've written hundreds of books. I was just listening to Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talk about how it took her 8 years to write her most recent book, Dream Count. And I'm trying to figure out what's the time, how long does it take you to write a book? So when do you move on to the next one?
Here's the thing. Again, I quit my job, and when I told my husband, I said, I'm gonna write. And he's like, oh, great, never heard me talk about writing before. And so I turned in my book, and it's gonna be published, and I quit my job. And the look on his face was, we have bills. So it was okay, well, he's very supportive. If this is what you wanna do, we'll make it work. If it does not work, we have bills, so you're gonna have to go get a job. I didn't want to go get a job. I was just like, I like this. I feel good here.
Down in Atlanta where rhythm drums strong, riders unite after a whole year gone. Heritage and history blended so sweet, a family reunion beat by beat. Ink on the page, hearts in a dance, past meets the future at every chance. Creativity flows like a beat so true, a family reunion, this joy is for you. Good vibes all rise and change on the way, we celebrate